Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? Dan Tom here as I pop my little name tag. They're the Protect Your Neck podcast, host of this show, analysts who you've seen work at MMA Junkie as well as Action Network. But on this year program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. Well, we're going to do it in whatever way we can because I can't remember my intros anymore, clearly. I've been hitting the head too many times. But whenever you're listening to this, today, tonight, whenever you're listening to this, hopefully it's for the fight. Recording this Thursday night, West Coast Pacific time, Las Vegas time for, of course, UFC Vegas 79, UFC Fight Night 228. Make sure you get those numbers straight because Noche was 227. Of course, we have to have multiple numbers for these multiple events that do not stop. If that makes it any easier for you, UFC Fight Night Fiziev versus Gamrot. Of course, we're going to be breaking that down top to bottom. Check the timestamps if you're listening in the future. By the way, hit the like button, not that I deserve it. And then, 5-star ratings and reviews. If you can't give it a review, give me the 5 stars. It's like all 5-star reviews, and then you just have the couple haters. Nothing in the middle ground, which is good. That should be obvious. The rating is still high. The interaction still helps. So the haters are still helping. But, that doesn't mean we can't clean up the joint. We're inviting people in, but let's clean it up. Let's help the program. It's free. It costs nothing. In fact, don't even do it just for me. If you're going to do it, do it for, now I'm giving you homework. Like, fuck you, Dan. You're lucky we're here. Just do it for any of your podcasts you like listening to. It's just a really cool thing to do. It helps them, and it doesn't cost you nothing, right? Spreads the positivity. So thank you guys for joining in. Of course, I got my guys, Chronic Combat Conversations. Love these guys over here. Let's see if I can get the comment up. No time like Dan Tom. I don't know about that, but I appreciate you guys. Go check them out, of course. TB Scouting and Guru, not the MMA Guru. This is the good Guru over there, my guy Greg. Speaking of good guys, we got Mark Fellows in the house. Greetings from the other side of the planet. Cheers, DT. What's up, buddy? I hope you're doing well. Maybe I'll be going to that side of the planet still. Still trying to figure things out here. As far as my end-of-the-year trips, DT's going to need a break. James Kendrick in the house. Good evening, Dan. Have you ever heard of the show Chronic Combat Conversation? They're very cool people and make thoughtful analysis like yourself. Yeah, I just gave them a shout. They're actually legit friends. Some of the few in the gambling space of the good dudes out there that I referenced, those guys are definitely part of that group. Glad to see you guys giving shouts. Always glad to see, not so coincidentally, that we kind of like promote and say the same positive people, so that's always really, really cool, and when I bring in guests as well, like my guy Clint, who's got a nice big channel. Shout out to my guy Diehard MMA. He was pleasantly surprised that might not be the biggest channel over here, clearly, but he was like, you had a really positive people in your chat, and that was really cool. So I want to thank you guys. I want to thank especially the Jimmy Kudos of the world, who it would not be possible. Enforcer number 1, message to the chat number 1, be nice. Number 2, be respectful. And most importantly, number 3, don't be a dickhead. We have enough negativity in the world. We don't need it here. Well said. And Enforcer number 2, right below him, of course. You guys are so consistent. I don't deserve this. Ghost Phantom in the house. Not just an enforcer, an analyst, a good dude, a martial artist, all of the above. Hi, Dan. Let's have a great show. Let's have a great show indeed. Pepe Silva, good card this weekend. Also, Bellator LFA. Yeah, a lot of stuff. I actually got some Bellator analysis and some Bellator plays. So, although I am late, I'm not coming empty-handed. Again, despite the results, which I thought, oh my goodness, and we'll definitely come correct as I did on Twitter. I had to correct it. And I'll give you guys that quick lowdown as we do usual. We do our usual recap. Some people call it crying, but we just got to get through it. Win or lose, and you guys know I always account on the losing week somehow. I'm definitely here, despite me being, dealing with my inconsistencies this season. So, apologies there, guys. But I got a lot for you. And again, despite all that, despite my complaining ass or however you want to put it, again, I'm it's clearly not working for me still, but that doesn't matter. I'm still gonna be keeping the positive vibes, and not even just like phoning it in right now. Because, I don't really say that, but this is just one of those weeks where I see the board. And that's part of the reason why I was late, too, because I just, I'm getting the ADD in the positive way for once. I've been struggling with those things and not just saying it casually out there. I hate when people say, oh, I'm very OCD about this, I'm very ADD. Like, us motherfuckers who struggle with it, it's not fun. It's real. I'm not trying to be fucking word police. You say whatever the hell you want. That's not what I'm saying here. But I am saying I hate when it's used casually for what it's worth, because I actually do have formal diagnoses. And so I'm speaking to you literally. I'm not trying to use it casually in case you deal with those things too. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to y'all listening or watching. But yeah, it was the positive ADD where I'm just like, I see this line. I'm like, this looks good. Like, what's going on here? So, we'll see. And I felt like, in my defense, I know the analysis, like, I felt like, I don't know. I'm still surprised, like, last week somehow ended up, one push, two bets, and one of those bets being a push swung me from, like, a $300 win to a $65 loss. I think I posted minus 165, but I was in such a hurry to correct that my correction math was fucked up, because once you just start slipping downhill, I'm sure we've all done this at work, at school, right? Where it's like once you get one thing right, you just start like fumbling the ball, right? Like especially at work, like on a shift or something like that. And as my penance, because if I don't deserve enough and I don't suck enough, I was like, you know what? Even though I technically didn't lose that unit, and if someone wants to go look, they can look for themselves. Or 165, it was actually less. I'm like, you know what? I'll just wear the bigger loss, because again, most people are like stressing, scheming, record fixing just to pretend. No, you know me, man. I'm showing my ass even when it's getting hit. Gonna finish up some shouts in the chat, and we'll get on with this card. Synchro Wing in the house. Hi, Dan. I don't know how long I can stay, but can't wait to your analysis. Thank you, Synchro Wing. I'm trying to get these not too much later than 7:15, but I wanted to go 7:15, and I'm like, the Synchro Wings of the world, the other people who don't like the later show or maybe can't stay, try to find that balance. But my clock was clearly set for 7:15, so we'll get to it. Apologies. Rio says in Truesdale, greetings, Dan. You're the man. Thank you very much. Nika, we will bounce back this week. Another positive voice in the house. Thank you, Nika. Been seeing you show up more, and hopefully you keep showing up more, because, again, we're on the same queue as that positivity vibe that we really all should have here, and you, chat, do it a lot better than me, so appreciate you. Oh, no. ADHD, and yeah, exactly. Jimmy Kuda, hopefully your show is early enough to see the usuals. Me too. Protect Your Record podcast. Yeah, I don't know what record there is to protect Pepe Silva. As you have noticed, I've barely been in the black at all this year. It's mainly been just red. For the it was back and forth to start the year, and we've been red. I came really close to getting back in the black. Kept my head down, wasn't saying anything, and then we're back to like what is it, like minus like 24. Minus 24 units or so. So yeah. We'll see. And again, I'll save any spiels or excuses. Although we did. Thanks. Shouts to my guest last week who you loved, Fenyo, from the Fight Site. Go support him. Thefight-site.com, and of course at Fenyo, Fenox Sky. As that's spelled, and he provided excellent analysis. And we did talk about, actual, like, not just making excuses, because he doesn't, Fenyo's just an analysis, he doesn't do the bets or picks or anything. But we were talking about why picks to bets or whatever, maybe for whether it's OG analysts, OG bettors, OG fans, if you like just track your picks or whatever, maybe why y'all are also not maybe doing as good. And again, not trying to shovel the blame, again, if anything, you guys have my permission to point at me if anybody's giving you shit, because very few, if not, I don't want to say nobody, of course, but very few people are probably doing worse than me, so I'm not getting that twisted at all. But I'm just saying in general, there are some trends to that, which we talked about on the last show. Not going to bore you here, because I want to get to business, and then we can get to the breakdowns. How does that sound? I wasn't able to pull up or to do the calculations, but I do have the UFC Noche results pulled up. Of course, it was headlined by Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. Let's do a quick result. That was a push. We were 1-0-1, 2-0-1, 3-0-1. Even though Kyle Nelson was a dog or pass, that actually hit for a round robin. The official pick was Padilla, so that's 3-1-1 on the main card. 4-1-1, 5-1-1. Oof, push there with the La Cerda. So 5-1-2, I guess, right? Right. 6-1-2. 6-2-2. Took a reluctant dog shot on Reyes. And of course, so 7-2-2. And of course, the two pushes we had money on. Of course, the round robin doesn't hit as per normal. / we hit one leg, which hasn't been normal lately. I haven't been hitting any, and there's been no crybabying on that. There's been bad picks by me that I've owned every week, and I'll continue to do that. But yeah, this was more the classic, I guess, aside from the last couple weeks where we only hit the one, which was Nelson. Again, my round robins got messed up. There were multiple versions of it, but as you guys know, MGM was being hacked, so like my account, it wasn't even like, oh, they're messing with me and limiting me or whatever, which does happen, and I'm not special in that regard. That's not why I'm saying it. It's just a fact. But no, this was an overall thing. So, and that is the house that I round robin in. I'm hopefully, shout out to my guy Martin P. recommended me for William Hill app. I got to go into a William Hill book though here in Vegas. I'm going to try to do that tomorrow. Because apparently they'll let you do same game parlays, let me parlay the big numbers and not limit me. We'll see on the props and the rounds. So that's definitely what I'm going to try first. If not, I will go to and do my usual from BetMGM, which looks like they are back up. We'll see. And I will give you. I have a good idea what I'm targeting for my round robins as well. With my back to my seeing the board thing. So I'm going to give you guys. Again, kind of a vast variety of options, like I usually do anyways. I'll let you know where my head's at if I don't have it finalized, but especially with that jumping, and that really, I don't want to cry wolf or whatever, it really did mess me up, especially because my original one I wanted to do was Godinez round 2, hit, Kopylov round 2, hit, Madalena round 2, which wouldn't have hit, and Grasso decision, which we will talk about. Of course, we ended up just over a half unit short, so not a big loss, especially for the reverse sweep king over here. I guess I'll take it in that regard. But of course, I ended up with just Reyes. Again, a lot of times if there's a dog or pass, but I don't have the balls to play them, they may end up in the round robin. We'll talk about that with perhaps a main card opener coming up for UFC Vegas 79. Lacerda was a push. Nelson ended up in there because that was dog or pass. Shouts to my guy Brad Taschek there with the Nelson by decision. Very sharp play on the MMA Analysis podcast. Shouts to them. And then Grasso, I couldn't get it by decision. I had it by money line, which would have made all the difference in the world, right? Because we had her as the money line as well. We had it in the round robin. And we added her with Kopylov round 2, which cashed. Because again, since I couldn't put Kopylov round 2, I at least added it straight on my official record. I took it at the book. And even though Godinez, since I was already exposed inside the distance in the book, I was playing at for untracked, which, by the way, I think I dumped $745 coming back with just north of the 1,000. So a winning night there, winning night with hard cash in my pocket. But that's untracked. It doesn't matter, folks. That's why I'm only saying that now, and that's not a big. I'm not celebrating. It doesn't matter. It's what's tracks matter, and what's tracked, I'm down. I'm down what like my bankroll is in actually real life, which is kind of fucking ironic. But yeah, at that book they didn't have inside the distance, so I just did $50 on Godinez round 2 and round 3. So that was really nice. But again, the officials where it counts. We had JDM inside the distance, and Holland under JDM under. That was a big miss. That was a big miss. But again, we still should have. I feel like I was willing to miss that, and still like we feel like pre and post coulda, shoulda, woulda got the win. But that's just how it is. I kind of knew this one was going to be dead though, because I was like, well, now the only way it'll go messed up here is if if the fight goes to the decision. I'm like, that's right. And that's why I joked on the podcast. I was like, bet Holland by decision. It was a split. I think they got it right. And even though my bets didn't, for what it's worth, the analysis was correct. If you look at it, Madalena is underrated closing distance, leg kicks, and coming to life with the punches. Particularly on the cage positioning, which was the major analysis point. Cage positioning, left hands, those things were all there. And I particularly liked in the round 1 where, and something I like to do too, because it does get in people's head, if you can really, especially if someone either likes to jab or you can get them jabbing because you just like the inside parry counter, a la Stipe Miocic, that inside parry cross counter. Madalena hit Holland with one of those that got in his head, and you could tell because Holland does that thing where if you've been watching him long enough, he gives himself away. It's like reverse psychology where he's like, oh, that was good there. But it was because it really was good. And it really did kind of like get in his head there. So I got no issue with that. But again, I'm not trying to like spoil it. Like if it would have gone Holland, whatever, like I would be congratulating Holland bettors as I gave them props because I said that was coming out of it. We're all losers anyways, no matter what the pick in the analysis is. Unless you had, of course, JDM chalk or by decision, right? There. So that was that one. And then yeah, we cashed the over, which is again, despite these losing nights, we're still cashing the biggest bets of the night, which is crazy too. But usually the biggest bets are chalk to kind of balance out my typical dog shots and big number sprinkles as I tend to play, which you could argue that I'm getting too cute or that's why you're losing, but it's just like with the upsets and unpredictability in MMA, again, it's everyone can pretend like they have the answers when they're winning. What you're doing is the way, right? Until it's not. So I'm not going to pretend that. I'm always going to keep the same energy no matter how I'm doing there. But yeah, of course, so we kind of covered that. The top 2 fights. I didn't really cover the scoring. So part of the reason why I was wrong on this one, so I look like an idiot, and I don't. But I also, I won't be too honest. But like again, folks, I'm often just running errands, trying to get workouts in, and then by nighttime, like if I'm so busy during the week, it's just like, and Sunday is just I'm a zombie. I got to do the cleaning, run a house, take care of the dogs, prep for the next week, yada yada. And I'm working up until Friday nights usually, so it's like Friday nights and Saturday nights if I want to go out, have fun, see friends, go on dates, right? Like these are the nights to do that. And I know, believe it or not, despite, having a losing record and maybe looking like a loser to some of you, Tan Tom here actually has a life. Yeah, I actually get out. I actually do the stuff that we're talking about now. I actually see and talk to girls. Crazy, I know. You guys should try it sometime. Not you guys, I'm talking about the trolls, of course. You guys are fucking cool in the chat. But yeah, like, so I was indisposed, let's just say. And I wasn't really paying attention, watching fights in and out, which is a normal story for me. And I don't know if I wasn't able to hear the fights or it was turned down. I forget what the scenario was, but I just remembered at a certain point looking over and seeing Grasso getting her hand raised and the bell going on. I was like, oh, sweet. I was busy doing something else, but I looked over and I'm like, oh, sweet, cool, cash the bet. That's what I needed. And I just, especially with my losing ass, just losing so much, I did that thing where you just get too excited and you start... You want to be first and not right, and I'm usually not like that. I'm usually not wired for that. And of course, the one time I do, boy, do I pay for it. I look like an idiot. Of course, they're like, it was a draw, you idiot. Because also the parts I was looking in the fights were like, I did see the guillotine scary moments, right? Like round 3, I believe it was, or whatever. But like I saw the drop from the the right hook, left hands and right hook. Remember that analysis when we talked about that? As far as like. Everyone was talking about check hook versus cross. Like, no, that's not it. It's the fact that left cross lanes are potently stupid, especially with right hook, follow-ups as well. You're just not used to that angle on the hooks or the crosses. And you could say jabs too, but again, jabs lack in MMA in general, much less, when a southpaw is involved, even though it shouldn't be, but that's just what it is, right? So I was like, oh, yeah, even the little glimpses I get, I'm like, oh, sweet, man, maybe my analysis here isn't crazy. It did look like an exciting Val fight, obviously. Went back to watch it, more cleanly. I don't want to say soberly because I wasn't even drinking. But yeah, like with sober eyes, so to speak. And I know, obviously, I was on Grasso, and it's going to sound like spilled milk. And, I'm not even like crying about it or like I can cry about it online. I'm not having a tone about it. I'm actually really positive for Dan Tom over here. So it's not coming from any of that. The all bets are final at this point. So if you've got any emotion on it, it's only disservicing you. So I can't do anything with that. I look at it unbiasedly after the tickets are cashed or not cashed. And I had it for rounds 2, 4, and 5 for Grasso. I did not have a 10-8 in any of the rounds, and I'm a big 10-8 fan. Big Mike Vell fan. Not big Mike Vell fan. I don't know him. He's one of the few judges I've not spoken to, believe it or not. But he is. I would agree with Nick Stick, even though he seemed like not just for this fight. I believe the fight before he may have had a suspect card too. Correct me if I'm wrong. So definitely just wasn't his night. I'm not defending that. But he is one of the more consistent judges, which is ironic. And he is one of the more to give a 10-8, which makes sense in this case. And I usually would like. And it's just one of those things where it's like, again, the challenge, and I'm not trying to like cry or anything about that. I'm not doing that here. But again, I'm owning, and I just claimed bad, stupid picks on me, right? But yes, if we want to talk about variance, I've been on the disproportionate wrong end of variance to the point of, feel free in the chat, name an injury that I've been and profited on. Again, the only injury that I've been on the right side on was that recent one with Lucindo or whatever her name was, and I didn't have anything on that fight, so it affected me nada. You know what I'm saying? And just dating back to 2021, the judging type of fights, and 2020 even too, but 2021 mainly since the weird judging, any kind of weird. We'll talk about it with just Gamrot alone, right? Yeah, I was on the wrong side of those. But like I've been disproportionately, right? And even on those, I forget recently, but like the two ones you can like, I think like almost 2 years ago now, there was some stupid Pennington fight or whatever that I got the split on, and even though it was a competitive fight that could have gone either way, you know, between commentary, popular bets, or whatever, it was seen as like kind of an upset, or not even like an upset, but maybe a little bit like, oh, you got lucky there. I'm like, I guess. I actually think that Pennington legitimately won, bet aside, you know. Maybe that, I guess. I'm having to really pull deep from like almost fucking 2 years ago. Or you've got fights like this, or another one that I believe either ended in a draw or some type of push, where, yeah, I think it was one, you know, it was, or it was maybe on the same night, right? Like the Lacerda thing, that's just like, you could say I was saved, but it's like, you know, I know Lacerda doesn't traditionally win past the first round, but they were still in the first round. You don't know if Lacerda's going to come back. Chavez makes dumb decisions and had a tough weight cut, so his gas tank could have been just as compromised as we got in round 2 and 3, right? But still, yet, I've been on the wrong end of those, where like Dawkins and Holland, where it looks like I'm going to be on the right end, and you know they can appeal it after. Just let me cash my bets, right? And they can appeal the no contest after. And then you got, you know, Dan Miragliotta has his mind set up. I'm about to get one by, and you know Herb goes, "Oh, Dan," and you can even see it on the tape. And then he calls him back, interjects his opinion, and then they go with the no contest, even though it goes clearly against the decision that Miragliotta made in the fight, after the fight, and the concussiveness that Holland had to fight through, all for nothing. Even though Holland himself was like, you know, I got my ass, whatever, you know, even though he didn't really know where he was at. But yeah, like, so I've definitely been on the wrong end of those. So, okay, I guess I'll take it. But again, what am I taking here? A push that took up place on my round robin with another push I got on the round robin, which again, it's, you know, oh, you got lucky because it wasn't a 10-8 and that 10-8 saved you. You're like, technically you are correct. Absolutely. But at the same time, I didn't profit off of it. I went from a winning night to a losing night, you know, on all these nights, and where you can even kind of do these considerations, which aren't really breaks when we're talking about it. Not only have I not profited from the fight, I still lost on those nights that those happened. So in no way or layer have I even profited from my closest cases. And y'all are welcome to correct me every episode, and I've still gotten none. Miss me with the variance talk. But for this one, no. I mean, that aside, it could have been scored either way. It comes down to that fourth round, and for me, I feel like Grasso had the more impactful moments. And you know me, I'm a more body of work guy. I've never picked against Shevchenko until this fight. I'm a body of work guy over a big moments guy, but not just the knees, which you can make an argument and say, well, how much did they affect her when she was talking to the ref? And I'm like, well, that was just kind of a stupid move by Val, and she was talking and not really knowing what to do, you know, out of that panic because she couldn't believe she was getting hit by the shots, which were clean shots. And clean shots are clean shots. Some people wear shots better than others, whether we're talking about not showing bruising or cutting, or just their chin and ability to kind of wear it off, but you still have to score it, right? That being said, those knees were much more impactful than the one skimming elbow that Shevchenko lands, and it cuts Grasso and it makes blood, but that doesn't score much. And I'm not saying with me, it really shouldn't score too much with the judges either, because, again, blood is not end-all be-all. Some people bleed easier than others. This is not one where you're going to mistake it. It's going to be pretty clear. But again, you also have to really see the strike that caused the cut for you to actually grade it. Because if you didn't see the strike as a judge, you didn't get an angle on it, or a decent enough one where, like, okay, maybe their back was to you, so you didn't see the right hook land, but they threw a right hook. I'm not sure if it landed, and when they separated, the fighter that got right hooked on has a cut there. I'll obviously give them leeway to credit that toward the fighter as a clean shot. But unless you don't have anything like that, then it could have been from a clash ahead that you, the referee, many times do not see, right? So you got to be really careful how you grade that type of damage, which is why it is important to understand actual technique, actual leveraging strikes, because that helps you see things beyond the point of contact, which can be tough live, things happen fast, or relying on really deceptive information like cuts that can lead you the wrong way just as much as they can lead you the right way, right? And if you look at it, what was the effect of it? Grasso not even not affected. Like, this isn't even a turn. She didn't even blink. No, she literally didn't even blink. And the cut's by her eye. The elbow is by her. It didn't even blink. Comes forward. There is a bit of a weird kind of a pause between both of them. But the very next meaningful exchange is won by Grasso. And I'm not sure if it's a lead hook or a jab. But her right jab and her right lead hand was much better this fight from Southpaw when she smartened back up and got back to it. Because she seems to kind of stammer Valentina, you know. I don't think the commentary does she's rocked, but Valentina did this a couple other times where commentary, it did draw that. I don't know if they just missed it, because not even just commentary, even people on rewatch and their arguments, I didn't see anybody really cite this strike of the round. But essentially, Grasso's two biggest strikes literally sandwich Valentina's best strike. So that's 2 moments to 1. And then you've also got the moment at the end, which is a submission catch, a heel hook. It was a legitimate catch. That scores. And I said that before listening to Lupi Godinez's interview this week. I believe it was on Unfiltered, where she said Grasso actually heard Valentina's knee pop a couple of times. Not that, you know, you could expect that. We don't know that. And obviously, you can't expect the judges to know that. But again, that's why you need to score submission catches. Would I have scored it highly? Would I have scored it higher than any Grasso strikes or Shevchenko's big strikes? No, not necessarily, right? But it does fucking score. You do need to add it to the score. Because sometimes it might even score more than you think it is. Some people might argue with me for scoring a submission catch, which, what the fuck else are we going to do? Don't we lack metrics and language for grappling? Why not take some of the actual applicable scoring language from grappling sports into MMA if it's all the same mix of sports, right? Crazy, I know. And this stuff's actually effective grappling. That's in the criteria. She off-balanced Shevchenko and gave her nowhere to move with the cage. Caught the heel hook. Even had the leveraging counter leg and pushing pressure with the bend. And behind the heel catch. That's a submission catch. So yeah, I mean, it totally okay to go Valentina that round, especially live, right? Like, I get it. I'm not saying it's a bad score, but I'm justifying not. He had money on Grot. No, I'm specifically explaining step by step why I scored it, and yeah. Ronald Rosas Jr. defeated Terrence Mitchell. Welcome to Good Burger. Wow, we learned nothing. Daniel Zellhuber defeated Christos Yagos. Anaconda. Don't want none, son. I gotta butcher that fucking song. Sorry. Kyle Nelson. Shout out to Fenyo. Boring Kyle Nelson is a beast now. He's figured out, how to do his thing. Of course, extended the more opportunistic Fernando Padilla. Should have picked Nelson, but did have him in the round robin. He hit, and it was all for nothing. That plus 200 because we couldn't get anything to go with it. Godinez defeated Elise Reed. Rear naked choke. This one felt great because the analysis I gave was before she gave interviews I heard interviews, I should say. My guy Aaron Bronstetter, TSN. But you heard Lupi talking before and after, and was saying the exact same things I'm saying. She's training down with Alexa Grasso and Diego Lopez, so expect those grappling improvements. I think she had trouble on her finishing ability. He's going to be able to help shore that up. And she was even critical on herself post-fight, was saying in interviews that she goes, I honestly wasn't confident in my finishing ability for my rear naked chokes, my positions for ground and pound, and they are really cleaning that up. So, the sub was there, even though I didn't play it. I said that was going to be more obvious, but it just, again, they were giving you inside the distance plus money. And then, again, when you didn't have inside the distance, just taking that unit you would have put, or whatever you would have put, and just split it on the round 2 and round 3, and that's just money, right? And we were sweating that because, boy, it almost ended in round 1. So, shouts to my guy Aaron Bronstetter, who also had the round 2 loopy, by the way. It was just one of those things where I hate seeing that armbar stuff and I squirm, and I'm getting a weaker stomach for violence as I get older, folks. But it was weird. So I'm praying for it to stop, but I'm also praying for the clock to go faster, so maybe I can get to round 2 and cash some more money. Even though inside the distance and the official record would have been clear either way on that, Again, was also rooting for the untracked, which, not that it matters because it's untracked, did do a better. So that was a fun experience. A Kopylov Fremd round 2, which felt so good. Nothing against Fremd or anything, obviously. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but it was just I was just reminded, and I forgot to talk about it last time, that was just another one where I had Frem round 2 and Frem inside the distance. I'm like, no, I'm going to make it back for that because I just was so mad that, I know it was a bad weight cut and it just messed Frem up apparently, but like that he couldn't finish Jamie Pickett in that fight. Oh, that was a herder. So, Kopylov got us back. Again, I said they priced you out of Kopylov. The only way to bet it is round 2, so hopefully you guys follow that. It wasn't the hugest number, but I mean, plus 400 compared to chalk KO, chalk inside the distance, chalk money line, chalk under. You know what I'm saying? Like, round 2, round props, folks. That's where the analysis is good for. Call me cute, say I'm losing, whatever. You don't got to follow my bets, but the analysis is good for these fucking round props. Edgar Chavez Lacerda, we talked about that. That was a bad call. Props to Chris Tiani, though. I guess he apologized in ring right after. Plus, they did the no contest and the accountability call. I mean, that's all you can really ask for. I know Dom Cruz was going off, and I get it. Believe me, as a bettor, as a fan. But at the same time, at least I can. I hope you can put that stuff aside and appreciate the difficulty of the job and how much of a man it takes to apologize for your mistakes to a fighter in the heat of things, on air, in a fight, etc. like that. So props to Chris Tiani, and hopefully more officials do so and take accountability as best they can. Charlie Campbell defeated Alex Reyes TKO. That was brutal. Yeah, that wasn't winning as soon as I saw it. Just was more of a number thing. And sympathies to Nuts and Inside the Distance bettors. Defeated Marnik Man. Probably should have got the finish there, huh? I didn't watch that one too close. But that was that. All right, 31-21 finishes the recap. I want to do a chat cleanup before we go to, real quick, some shouts. Billy Welks. I'm going to shout out my guy MMA on the Rocks. Make sure you're following his channel. I always love Billy Welks. I'm meaning to get him on/back on the podcast. He's had me on his program. Go subscribe to his channel, MMA on the Rocks. You can find him also on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm not going to call it the other thing, but mainly on Instagram because he's doing a lot of drink stuff too. Billy Welk's always been like the undercover, low-key best bartender. You could pull out of your back pocket, but he's actually like doing like drink vids as well as like martial arts and technique vids down in Florida, Billy Q territory, Tampa. So I really wanted to shout him. May or may not have him on next week, folks. I know it's an off week. I still got to do Contender Series. And since I am still got to get some Evergreen out this week, might as well do a top 5 to go along with it. So may or may not have Billy Welks on some top 5 middleweight fights action coming your way. Of course, always got to shout out my guy D-Love, D_loves_turmeric tonic, the turmeric tonic. You type in D-Love's turmeric tonic and it should pop up with the weird underscores on the Instagram. Follow him there. He'll do some stories. You use code PROTECT15 for 15% off. An excellent arrangement of some lemon, turmeric, and ginger. I'm actually going to be putting in an order soon, my guy D-Love, but go support him. Give him some love. Give him a follow. My guy Drake Riggs. It was great seeing Drake Riggs in the house last week's Contender Series. Got to see a lot of colleagues like my guy Aaron Bronstetter as well. Alex Behunin, long overdue. He's been out here in Vegas. I just don't go to the shows live, and I went to meet some friends for dinner. My guy Marcus from Atlanta, Marcus Williams, Nubian Bookstore. So many different names. I got confused. And then, of course, the man has a shirt that has his name on it. He's an OG on the Twitter space, MMA Junkie Radio, MMA space. Gambling, again, Nubian Bookstore, great dude. It was great seeing him. Met up with some guys. Aaron, of course, saw a Contender Series, met up with this weekend. And again, I also want to shout out Johnny the Greek. Of course, that is Johnny from the Contender Series. I met him before, and I've said this on this program before, he's a really nice guy in person. When he was on his bad streak, I think it was like last year or whatever, where everyone was doing the Fade the Greek. As fun as, y'all were having, I wasn't trying to rain on anybody's parade, but I did say, I got sympathy. I don't want to pile in on this guy because, if it were me in that position, with my luck, right, I would that exact same shit would happen to me. And despite one of the only few people to stick up and say that, of course, karma working the way it does, I don't even have a public position like my man Johnny, and I got hit with a fucking doubly cold streak, as I've, of course, been on. It's funny how that works, but I'm very happy for Johnny. It was great to talk with him. And I will say, I just want to say that guys just can't say enough nice things about the guy. I know, he's a big personality when he gets on there and whatnot, but the dude's always been humble. He knows his lane, his lane's numbers. It's not as much MMA, but he's really been, immersing himself in the sport since he got in. He's never, been one to really argue any of that, man. So you gotta respect that. And if he seems like a nice guy, it's because he is. So I wanted to give Johnny those shots, man. Give him his due. It's like Carrot Top in the community scene. Some guys that just get unfairly, in the scene, and then they're around for a while, and you see like, hey, this guy's a good dude over here. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like Johnny gets a lot of that. But yeah, remind me to talk about some line movement when we get to Ige and Gamrot. Those ends the shouts. Again, iTunes and Amazon reviews. I don't want to go long today. Maybe if I have time at the end, I'll do some Amazon's reads. But again, if you guys want to go mixedmartialanalyst.com, use the click-throughs for on it or Amazon. If you shop at those things, you pretty much go to the website, click the banner. So that's a total of 2 tasks, 2 clicks, and you're on your website shopping, and a small percentage of your purchase gets kicked back to this year program with no extra charge to you. Of course, if you do want to support the program, there is a PayPal link right above that, mixedmartialanalyst.com. I haven't plugged this stuff in a while. I don't deserve it. Might as well plug it. And, of course, that's also in the link trees at DanTomMMA that you can find on my Instagram or on Twitter, artist formerly known as Twitter. For that, we'll see if I have time to read that. Let's go chat cleanup. Here we go. Here we go, Evil. Valentina fell because of Mike Bell, like that pun. Yeah, that's a good one. My guy Rain Lamina in the house. Hopefully that's right. Rio says in Truesdale, the cultural appropriation was embarrassing for the UFC. You mentioned this, but I am glad that the UFC didn't do that for Asian Heritage Month. Yeah, everyone's saying like, oh, they should do this for a bunch of just like relax, folks. It did a lot of numbers. And I love Mexican combat sports. I grew up watching boxing, particularly going to friends' houses out here in Vegas. My dad's friends' houses were of Mexican descent, so I grew up, I think Taylor and fucking Cesar Chavez in like 91 is like my first vague memory of a boxing fight. I remember seeing Tyson when he came back out of prison a couple of years later in the 90s. But a lot of De La Hoya, a lot of Julio Cesar Chavez, a lot of that. So obviously, it is rich. There's no bullshit in that. I'm a big fan of that. That's all genuine. But yes, there is a business side as to why, from the beer companies, the boxing companies, MMA, all these things follow suit and sell to that market because the numbers are good. And Dana definitely, I believe, reported so as well. So, and again, UFC doesn't promote much these days, but what they do promote is their market expansions, especially where they have PIs. Again, Zhang Wei Li, even though she's legit and has proven herself as such, people were saying, oh, remember, she's just getting the title shot because they're opening the PI in Shanghai. And I definitely don't want to go down to those unfair routes, whether we're talking about China or Mexico, doesn't matter. I definitely don't want to be too unfair with those talking points, obviously. But at the same time, there is some truth to those things as to why that generates those talks, because the UFC does do that. So let's see it for what it is as well. And that's why I was, people were like, oh, it'd be cool if they do something with Japan or something Asian. And I was just like, and I agree, by the way. I think it was like my guy Luca Fury, shouts to Luca, saying something like that. But I was just like, it would be cool, but it's just like, considering the UFC, like, the one woke thing that the UFC doesn't do, even though they apparently don't do woke stuff, they do all the typical woke month stuff, right? From gay pride to everything, which is cool. I'm not saying it. I'm saying woke is a joke, obviously, for the people who say that, like it's got some bite to it or something still. I don't know. But we know that Asian Heritage Month going on for a decade now and counting is one they just ignore. Even when they actually do have Asian products, we don't even really realize them. Even when they got the beautiful Laura Sanko commentating them for Road to UFC, right? I mean, which thank God, because, again, who knows what kind of Asian jingles they would fucking toss on those things that they try to promote it. So I don't think they're going to get too crazy with it, folks, but they are definitely, like Dana said, they're going to attack UFC Noche and go head-to-head and, attack that market. So, yep. Ghost Phantom, split draw was the funniest way for Valentina to not win, then claimed racial bias post-fight. Chef Kiss. Yeah, affirmative action Val. That was That was something. Yeah, that was Valentina. Oh my god. Again, she's not the, like I said, folks. I've been a bigger Valentina fan than others. I've never picked against her to this fight, but like I was saying on this podcast prior, that attitude, stubborn Chevy, man. That's why I couldn't trust her. And we may, even though this was an exciting fight for her, we may start seeing her downtrend, or don't be surprised. So, done. Matt Pauly, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. I love the Avi, the Super Mario, new name, and positive Thursday nights. Dan Tom time. I always love the breakdowns, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you, guys. Make sure to hit the like, although I don't deserve it. Ghost Phantom Raul Rosas Jr. answered questions about his cardio and heart by TKOing opponent in 40 seconds. Did you like the snarky eloquence? Yes, I did. Great minds think alike, my guy. Great minds think alike there. Synchro Wing, did you think that Loopy is a world beater? I've seen online people saying she is the hardest matchup for Weili. I forget she had a hard time with Helen Penne. Your opinion, please? I wouldn't go so quick to say that, but I do not mind the enthusiasm because she has durability, cardio. Even though she's not even that big for strawweight per se, her strength was always there, freakish with the grappling, but even with the power, she was really fighting her left hook with Francisco Grasso. She said this camp, that was a shot that didn't surprise her that she landed so well. Again, you parallel things to where the UFC's at, and right now I think women's divisions are behind men. Not trying to be sexist, but like if we're putting it in a fun and analogous term, I don't think they're pre-tough noob or anything, but I do think they're like somewhere between like 2007 and 2010, and I think that's being really, really generous, but also fair, where women's MMA is at. So, and this also is really perfect for the parallel I would put Loopy, which is Diego Sanchez, who had some really good years in those divisions based off his ability to just be durable, wrestle, be a good enough grappler to, if not, start getting better with finishes, which we are seeing Loopy do, be able to stay out, whether it's exciting slams or scrambles, right? But she's already even maybe, showing, those bursts like Diego with Joe Riggs, but let's see if she can kind of, put that together more as far as she can still hurt people on the feet. Say what you will about Diego Sanchez, he was able to win a lot of fights in that era. And if you look at the overall analogous message that I'm saying here is that being the Diego Sanchez of strawweight right now, even in 2023, is more than enough to be a force and get to a title shot at the very least. So, yeah, I don't blame people. I get it, but you know me, I'm not gonna be saying anything that quick. Real Susan Truesdale, hey, we love Drake Riggs around these parts. Of course you do. Drake is the man. Shout out to Drake Riggs. Mike's MMA picks in the house. Another one of the people. I don't want to say few because that few is literally 3, and there's way more than that. But he is obviously in the good people's group for the gambling people out there. Mike's always a mensch, not just popping in here, but even behind the scenes in the DMs. Good dude. Get what's yours, Dan. Thank you. You too, Mike. All the best to you this weekend. Lastly but not leastly, James Kendrick. Hey, Mike's MMA Picks, cool channel as well. See, look at that. Getting my friends, getting love from my friends. My friends giving love to my friends. This is beautiful, my friend. My friend. Very beautiful. All right, let's get to the breakdown, shall we? We're about 43:07 in. Right, 43:10. Of course, UFC Vegas 79. UFC Fight Night. Fiziev versus Gamrot. UFC Fight Night 228. Take it as you will. Or actually, we'll go Bellator. Bellator 299, really quick. I didn't write it yet because I was in the process, but I had to stop. But I got my plays in. Johnny Eblen is like minus like 500 plus 390 on Fabian Edwards. It's a dumb number. I don't blame anybody taking Edwards because he's opportunistic like his brother, right? But this is, Johnny Eblen, even though I'm about to, compare this fight that I essentially think it's going to go down like Usman Edwards 1, not 2 or 3, folks, because again, Edwards isn't there yet. I'm really like what I see him on the pads and what I've seen him in his fights so far. I went back to watch his catalog. You see improvements every time, even just from his last fight to you can't really tell everything from pads or sparring work what they're showing online. But even that, it just really impressed. Clearly he's got a feel for grappling, as far as jiu-jitsu and transitional grappling and back taking like his brother. except he's bigger than his brother, both weight class and literally. He's pretty sizable 185er at that. Fabian Edwards is. But ultimately, it's still a lot of opportunism. If a fighter will allow him to take the front foot, which I don't think Eblen will, and again, even when they do, Fabian isn't that exactly consistent with it, even though he does really good work there. When he's on his back foot, he's too comfortable there because he is a natural counterpuncher. Again, you don't have to. That doesn't mean you can't go forward and counter. You know, all of the Conor McGregors of the world, the pressure counter fighters, right? Even Fiziev, who we'll talk about in a second, has a bit of a. You know, when I say he counters off his pressure just because he's pressuring, he's bridging defense into offense, pressure into counters, so on and so forth. But Fabian can be a little more lower volume and get stuck on that back foot. I think that's what can happen. I will say this. I did notice something that, the only southpaw that Eblen really faced that was dedicated southpaw. He's faced a couple switchers. Not really meaningful, though. Early on, lower level guys. He's only officially 1-0 against UFC level southpaws. That's, of course, against the Salter Dog, John Salter, who is primarily a grappler wrestler, of course. Salter was able to kind of counter him with the left hand. Left hooks to left hands from guys like Tokov were kind of the more common shots of what did land. Eblen has such a big head, though, it doesn't seem to affect him. And he adjusts really well. He won't start swinging back emotionally. But he won't just change levels blindly either, although he will smartly work and corral into his game. You know, he's bordering on good to bordering, especially if he keeps improving. He'll be one of those rare guys who can get the excellent risk management from me, just because he really puts it together. He reminds me more of Volkanovski, the fact because he can fight on his back foot too, switch stances and pressure. He's just constantly adjusting. He will jab against southpaws, which is great. He did it against stance switchers early in his Bellator career. He did it against Salter. He'll even switch to southpaw to mirror like he did against Salter to not just land the calf kicks and the mirrored kicks, but even use his lead hand there. So, you see it kind of getting sharpened up. It looked a little better, his southpaw stance. Like, again, speaking of fight-to-fight improvements, so is Eblen. And his southpaw stance looks better from his Salter to his Mousasi fight, which was his last fight, but was the next fight after the Salter fight 3 fights ago. And you see him to continue to improve upon that. And just the fact that he uses his lead hand against southpaws in open stance or as a southpaw makes him better against most southpaws or most guys who fight southpaws, if that makes sense. Just because he's got the lead hand awareness, he does use it. He does move his head offline. And he punctuates to the body, which is another great thing about punctuating to the body, not just because we're nerds like me, we'll appreciate you for it. Or, yes, it is effective striking. You could take away their gas tank or steal their soul if you hit them right to the solar plexus or liver. But it's also great for when guys switch stances, because that's another thing is like not knowing how to fight southpaws or this. Everybody switch stances these days. Like you need to know how to do these things. And the great thing about incorporating body work and punctuating with body work, like Eblen will do and others will, is because when you face southpaws or guys that are switching stance or guys that are like Bobby Green and they're doing the lean back or the Adesanyas, what's there? The legs and the body are often there. So that's why from styles like Dutch style kickboxing, Dutch style Thai boxing to so forth, will punctuate and incorporate so much body and leg work. It is effective striking at our target. It is targets that are there. And I think that's going to bode well for Eblen. But ultimately, I think that he knows it's going to be, even though he's been admittedly falling in love with his striking, and definitely not afraid to show that, he still smartly mixes in wrestling. And because he does, I think this could be one where he kind of goes back and has maybe even a heavier wrestling performance, especially because even though Edwards is improving his grappling, these are offensive improvements in his wrestling, offensive improvements in his jiu-jitsu. He's still letting go of overhooks and whizzers needlessly and allowing for shuck buys, which is mat return city and ride city for a guy like Johnny Eblen. So I think it's going to be mat return and ride city. It's going to be boring, probably Eblen by decision like the odds are mentioning. I was hoping to get a sneaky submission play in here, that they were going to do like a thing like Nemkov versus what was it, where like they put the plus 2100 that I grabbed like almost 2 years ago in October. Hopefully I'll get some more of that good juju, because in October Hopefully Lance Fishel is coming up with the MMA analysis, guys, because he is my one good luck charm for a guy who claims bad luck. I always kill it whenever I'm betting with that guy around me. But yeah, I hit that plus 2100 sub. They were smart to it, so smart that they actually put the sub lower than the KO, which kind of doesn't make sense. And at that point, you're picking and choosing, and then you're going to committing to an inside the distance if your house has that. Do I really want that for Bellator? Do I really want that with a guy who, as much as I like, there's a Eblen. There's a reason why he is bordering toward the excellent risk management, because he's not going to really maybe sell out for the finish, but he's only getting better. Maybe he does want to make a statement. Even though Edwards seems to be more of a slow burn fighter, he actually has some decent third rounds. He just does not look good off of his back when guys can put him there. We saw teammate Austin Vanderford, who is not as good of a wrestler, not as good of a submission fighter. Even though he's really, better there than most people give him credit for. I'm not trying to shit on Austin Vanderford. I've defended him. One of the first A+ I ever gave, in fact, in my contender series, was Austin Vanderford trivia. But you see what people have been able to do when they're able to get on top of him. I mean, even Charlie Ward, like 2 fights ago, was able to, give him some trouble and take him down and stay on top for positions, which were kind of silly, right? What I did instead was, I'm like, okay, you're gonna price me out of anything sub or anything fun. You know what? If he gets a finish, it's probably gonna be in championship rounds where we haven't seen Edwards. And again, Edwards doesn't look like he has bad cardio, but we know Eblen has excellent cardio, and we know his path to victory is wearing him through the wrestling. So if he does get a finish, it's gonna be rounds 4 and 5. So I just took 0.17 unit shots, baby. Eblen round 4 plus 1300, 0.17U. Round 5 plus 1600, 0.17U. Those are my only bets on the fight. Those are my only bets for Bellator 299. I'll get back to you guys' picks later. I don't want to get too hung up, but I appreciate that. I'll just say good. I do see a Bellator one. Hey, I like Johnny Eblen, says James Kendrick. Is the Ghost Zhang thread he mentions that Eblen will jab to draw out the rear hand when the opponent throws the rear hand as easy takedown. And that was an idea Zhang used against Lemos. Oh, great pickup. And good shouts to Ghost there. With Thomas Kane, when is Jamal Hill going to be healthy? If Alex P wins, Jamal beats him easy. I don't know about easy, but I definitely would favor, or not be surprised to see Jamal favored. We'll see though if Alex wins. I'm a big Poetan guy, but we'll see. Loves Mike's MMA picks. Nice getting the love. Real Susan Tuesday. I think you're the only analyst that mentions jabbing in a southpaw stance. I'm not the only analyst that mentions that, but I do appreciate you. Why are so many analysts speak out against the southpaw jab? What makes the southpaw jab so good? It's just because people don't see it. It's really stymieing. I just use it as a check. Anybody can have a checking jab, which not enough people do in general, no matter what the stance. But especially a southpaw checking jab, it just annoys people. It breaks up their their combinations. It's just super annoying, right? It is the super potent lane. It is the super stupid potent lane in the open stance, right? I just talked about the rare and lesser talked about closed southpaw versus southpaw stance, where the stupid open lane becomes left crosses and maybe the attached right hook. Well, the right jab is the stupid open lane when it's open stance. I don't know how to explain it, but put any more qualified fighter or analyst, which is not a high bar to get above me, but I'm just saying, go grab any of them, and I'm willing to bet most of them worth their salt will agree with me on that. Did you notice that Fabian, despite being a middleweight, is smaller than his bro? Is he? He looks like bigger than most of the people he fights, so I got to see them together. That's crazy. I got to look at that. Yeah, smaller than his bro Leon. I got to look at that Rain Lamina. All right, 53-30. Now we'll go UFC 228. UFC Fight Night 228, I should say. UFC Fight Night. Fiziev, Gamrot. UFC Vegas 79. Of course, we got Rafael Fiziev, minus 155 in the neighborhood. Comeback on Mateusz Gamrot. Plus 130. This is funny because I've not been a big Gamrot fan. Again, speaking of bad decisions, I had Sarukian. Of course I did right. Look at that decision. Not as egregious at all, I don't believe. But still, if you're not getting oversold on a quick mount at the end of the round or whatever and stuff like that, probably should have lost that Jalen Turner fight. So he probably should be 0-3, Gamrot. And since then I haven't been able to pick his fights. I think I reluctantly took him against Dariush, but it was one of those more like, because I thought Dariush was going to gas, and I didn't realize the improved wrestling Dariush had, and then, you get a guy there with Chucky Allos after you get rocked, and it's, it just kind of shows levels as well, I guess you could say, but, not so surprising, which again, even though I picked Gamrot, I believe in that, I did not excited to back him there or anything like that. So whether I picked or played him, I feel like I've been wrong. So maybe that's a bad omen here. Whereas Fiziev, you could argue he won his last fight, right? There's an argument that he won round 2 if you don't get oversold on the blood. And Benji boy, their old hips when they get older. Oof. It breaks my heart watching them walk sometimes. He's good. Don't worry. He's still beating the big stink sister. But the fuck was I talking about, Dan? But yeah, that round 2. You can make an argument for him there. In the spirit of, again, weird 10-8s, right? Not that it would have made a difference really, but there was that weird 10-8 given in round 2. It wasn't a 10-8 because I'm okay with obviously Gaethje getting that round, but like Fiziev rocks him early on in the round and has like a good first minute 30 solid, I believe, in round 3. So it's kind of one of those weird fights. I'm more of a fan of Fiziev's style than I am Gamrot's style. I said even though Gamrot keeps winning decisions he shouldn't get and winning rounds where he gets dropped in, I still stand by the fact that I don't believe he has a criteria-friendly style. I've said that before. I've said that many times. That being said, folks, it's not that I was surprised on the line. It should be this close either way. Probably should be closer to a pick'em. And I think people feel weird about it because this is one of the lines that really hasn't moved. But I like Gamrot here. Again, maybe it's one of those things where, my personal thing aside, it's easy for us all to kind of have that at-a-glance view and see why Fiziev is favored. And I have no issue with that, right? But, you know me, folks, styles make fights. And how many people have relentlessly went for a takedown against Fiziev, right? We can say RDA, who consistently goes for it, who consistently works at a decent pace, right? And Fiziev got the 5th round knockout. That being said, RDA, well, Dan, you bet RDA. How past you was it? Yes, I bet him for that fight back then. Yes. And I bet RDA since then, sure. But RDA has obviously shown he's pretty past it, as he should be. He was already outperforming, right? The fact that he even got to the championship, much less into his welterweight runs and all these things, that's no surprise there. And it's still impressive. But RDA, his takedowns are much more bread and butter. He doesn't go for low singles. It's pretty much the same thing off the cross. He's got that, but it's more of a chest level shot. And his adjustments and finishes are all from and reliant to the fence. So they're very, very, the dynamic is very different than a Gamrot's, who it's a completely different approach angle. It's a completely different speed. It's much better timing, much more volume of attack, much better consistency, much higher accuracy. But the biggest point is the chain wrestling. It's his ability to chain up from that single. It's his ability not even to make contact. He can just get his striking is pretty bread and butter, but it's similar to kind of similar to Bryce Mitchell, I guess we'll talk about, where they feed off each other. They live off each other, the wrestling and the striking. It's not even so much that well, Gamrot actually does have pretty good wrestling, but it's not even so much that it's lights out striking, obviously, right? Because it's not. It's the fact that he feeds off the looming level change. And even when there's no strike or no takedown contact, Gamrot's so good with his chaining that he can kind of fake a takedown, get you to bite, and come back around. And I say that because even though our old RDA, and that's not in his playbook, I think if you go back to round 3, there's a sequence there where old RDA like jukes him out like he's a fucking wide receiver and gets around to his back. And again, RDA is not able to make much of it. I think this is early round 3 or round 2. Fiziev is still strong, but it does make Fiziev wrestle to where by the end of round 3 or round 4, again, you look at the result, you might forget, Fiziev was tired because he often does tend to tire toward the end of his fights, even when it's a striking match, like we saw in the Gaethje fight, which was only 3 rounds, right? But Fiziev does have those pockets to recover, and I remember saying this live. Oh, Dan, of course you said it. Just like the Brad Pickett and Tomas Almeida UFC 189. You bet your ass. Sometimes you
You just say these things and it happens. I'm not special. It's just what it is. But I remember saying like, oh, RDA, all right, now you got to go. This is your chance. But even though you need every second of this round to build on a tiring Fiziev, you got to be careful with this very opening because he's got his burst, right? He's like an Aldo in the sense of he's got his pockets where he can recover. If you give him a pocket, he'll explode, right? And you saw that at the beginning of the round with the Gaethje fights, and then he would kind of fizzle out. And, of course, RDA goes right in, and then in the first exchange, he gets knocked out. And it's like, oh, doubters be damned. Cardio what? And you're just like, I know Fiziev is good. He deserved to be favored. He's probably going to win anyways, and he would have won anyways if that didn't happen. But let's not get so crazy and say that all of a sudden proves that he's a fucking cardio machine, lest we not forget, right? That is still there. And even though, he's even showed it again after that fight in 3 rounds. Now he's got 5 rounds in a small cage. You guys know me, superior grappler in the small cage, superior cardio fighter in a 5-round fight. Gamrot, say what you will about the scoring. I agree with you clearly if you heard me at the beginning of this breakdown. But the reason why he's probably getting those rounds, even though he doesn't deserve it, is because he gets dropped. What does he do? He gets right back on it like a dog on a bone. Both physically, but more importantly, mentally and cardio-wise. His cardio doesn't go away, which probably more fits under the physically, but more importantly, mentally, I should say. He doesn't seem discouraged, and that is huge, too. Especially for a guy who you could argue is very limited, much more limited than Fiziev is in the striking. Doesn't discourage him. Doesn't discourage him at all. He is playing with fire, both to finally get some more losses, because I don't have the highest ceiling for Gamrot. I think he's going to be stylistically dependent, or dependent on gracious scorecards, clearly. But I believe that this could be a really bad stylistic matchup for Fiziev, and you're going to put plus money. I'm willing to take the shot. Plus 135, 1 unit. And again, Fiziev, even though he's got a bit of a sambo background, he doesn't like to grapple. He doesn't like to grapple for prolonged periods. We haven't seen him against a real strong submission specialist. And when I picked Dos Anjos for the upset, even though it was like Gamrot, I was picking the superior grappler, the more proven fighter in 5 rounds, and in general, which you could also argue, even though he doesn't have the same resume as a Dos Anjos, you go back to his KSW resume as well, and you start incorporating that in. Yeah, MMA wise, he's got, you could argue, a deeper resume in some senses than Fiziev. You can make. I'm not going to die on any hills, but there's a lot of the similar, more importantly, stylistic similarities as to why I made that pick. And what I said with Dos Anjos is, just like Fiziev, if he does win, and if that does go the way of the stylistic analysis kind of projects, decision probably the most plausible, but there are possibilities for late round submissions, and I had a sneaky suspicion that if someone is able to put on the grappling fight that Dos Anjos wasn't able to do, but I do think, again, better cardio, more shots, more consistency, more output, more options, more dynamism in the wrestling, that I think Gamrot can. I do think you can tire Fiziev out. And just because he hasn't been submitted yet doesn't mean he can't be, right? Gamrot lists himself as a southpaw, even though he switches. Fiziev, technically, what is he, like 2-1 against UFC level southpaws? Lost his debut to, what was his name from No Country for Old Men? Anton Chigurh, Magomed Mustayev. And then I think Alex White, who drank the gasoline, was a southpaw. What's that John Gooden thing I clipped? Like, he's amazing to be here. He drank gasoline when he was 4 years old. The doctor said he would be brain damaged, but here he is, living his dream. Totally not meant to be comical, but you're like, yeah. That was one southpaw he beat, and then of course RDA. So I think he's 2-1 against southpaws, for whatever that's worth. But yeah, man, you're going to give me, I do think there's a sneaky thing. Maybe he could get the submission here. So maybe if I'm limited and I can't put, decide with a round, because I sprinkled, that's right, folks, 0.17 used in those main events. 3, 4, and 5. Only went 4 and 5 with Eblen and for Bellator's main. For the UFC main, going 3, 4, and 5. What the fuck odds did I get on that? I might get some better ones, but I'll give you what I got because you guys know me. I give the lower number officially tracked, which again, like I could help myself in every possible. I'm not a CLV stressor. I'm not fucking bragging about numbers I got, much less bets until they're fucking cash, and even then I'm not bragging as much. And then when I get fucking multiple numbers on a thing, I'm always posting the fucking lowest number. Like, I am not helping myself at all here, folks. And I get oh, you're so good, Dan. You want a pat on the back? It's like, no, I get, that's the point. Yeah, you don't get no pats on the back. You just fucking lose and look like an idiot. No one really cares about the honor system. But I got plus 2,000 round 3, plus 2,200 round 4, plus 3,300, 17 unit sprinkles. So just over or just under a unit and a half on Gamrot, pretty much, right? So if he wins, any means necessary. We cover pretty well there. Maybe get just under a unit or whatever, right? A little under a unit. And then if he wins maybe by submission, I get him in the round robin. No matter what round, it's good. He wins in round 3, 4, and 5. It's really good. Hopefully we can get a winning night and not have to depend on the main event for once. Maybe even the co-main. We'll see, because there's some decent plays that I'm liking on the board here, lower down as we get. But yeah, I believe my official pick was Gamrot by 4th round, head and arm triangle on those tick shoulders by Fiziev right there. Yeah, I think that's what's going to get it. And it's crazy. I hate the pick. I don't like Gamrot's style, but this is just what the style calls for, man. And again, you know me, grapplers, small cage. Yeah, plus 2,300 is a tasty line, and that's the 3,300 is actually the round 5, 2,200 is round 4. Gamrot, that is, and then 2,000 plus 2,000 is round 3. So those are, and that's not even like, oh, he has to do it by sub or by TKO. Like, no, by any means necessary. You know, if he's, because Fiziev's gonna have to either finish or seriously, significantly hurt and compromise Gamrot within the first 10 minutes of the fight, to be able to be in a position to not just win one of the 3 of the final rounds, but also survive whichever rounds he's not winning and needs to recoup back to the Aldo pockets to recoup, right? Even in striking fights, we've seen Fiziev need it. So that is, juicy is the right word, sir. You are right, James Kendrick. So we're going to go to the next fight here. Again, Bryce Mitchell, minus 210, plus 170, Dan Ige. Stated bias, folks. Hawaiian Extreme Couture. This is one of the ones I will, not just because it's an Eric Nixick guy, and I'm not like, you know, good buddies or buddies with Danny or anything. We don't go have drinks or anything. It's nothing like that. No relationship there. But yeah, I know Danny gave for a minute since before he was in the UFC when he was like helping run guys with Ali into the studio for interviews and stuff. Back in those MMA Junkie radio days, like half a decade ago. Obviously, the Extreme Couture thing. He is my guy, Eric Nixick's Bob, you're my number one guy. So, of course, if he's Eric's number one guy, shouts to anybody who got that quote. If he's Eric's number one guy, you know he's going to come in with a good game plan. You know he's going to get a lot of love from me naturally. And you know me, because transparency, I believe, is key, because there's just still not enough of that shit. So, whatever. So take that for what you will, and it sucks because they keep putting you in co-main events, and I got to write up betting articles for the co-main events, which I am obviously stoked to do. Thank you, Action Network, for the job. But you know, how much betting advice do you want from a biased guy? Even though I know my last 2 Ige ones did not leave you wrong, although we did miss the KO bonus there, which almost hit, and round 1 in land war fights. I mean, both of it almost hit twice, the KO, right at the end of round 1 and round 2, saved by the bell. Again, like legit saved by the bell or ended too early when it should have gone into the next round. Like, how many of those do I got under my belt too, right? And would have just made the difference and they were a part of a round robin amplifier, right? I'm not just crying here, folks. It is for good reason. But yes, even my bias aside, this fight opened near a pick'em, and you could argue, even with my bias aside, that Dan Ige should have been maybe even slightly favored. He was not. I believe it was like minus 115 to minus 105 with Ige the minus 105, or it was like a minus 110, minus 105. People took the ball and ran with Bryce Mitchell. If you really like Bryce and you want to take him near even money, I'm not going to hate you, right? Who am I? Of course. Oh, you're an Ige guy. Well, of course you're not going to like that play, right? But we're gonna bet minus Mitchell all the way to minus 200, all the way to minus 200. Like,
obviously, my bias aside, whatever your analysis is, whatever my analysis is, it doesn't matter. The betting value is clearly on Ige. This is a dog or pass. We have moved past pick a side and ride territory when one side gets 2-1, especially in a pick 'em fight. So now we are clearly dog or pass. I can say that with whatever the fuck you give about my bias, because it doesn't fucking matter. It is dog or pass. That being said, I have friends on Bryce Mitchell. They got in on better prices. I wish you guys the best. I am not hating, but I do not fucking get it. Outside of the one stylistic thing that I will respect, I will keep the same energy on, even when I am arguably on the opposite side of it, even though both men are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, except one wrestled at Iowa. No, it wasn't the Arkansas native. It was the Hawaiian. Iowa, granted, it was Wartburg College, but still, Division II program, over there with Puna, where they met. Or they already knew each other, I believe. But either way, the wrestling experience for Ige. We'll talk more about the wrestling improvements, potentially. But yes, obviously, Mitchell is the more dangerous and the more known grappling product. I won't deny that. I will give that full credit. And because he is that, I totally get favoring him, or giving him an edge, if you will. Maybe not outright favoring him, but certainly giving him an edge, right? However you want to interpret that, as the more known grappling product inside the smaller cage. That's one of my favorite analysis. That was just the thing. I'm not going to go turn around in the main event just to back my guy and my spoiler alert, my incoming play here in the co-main. No, I will keep that same energy. That is absolutely correct. But outside of that, I am coming up with a difficult reason to figure out why Bryce Mitchell should be a 2-1 favorite. Why, much less he should be steamed to a 2-1 favorite. Because those are two different things. One, you're setting the line there, right? But two, we're doubling down. We can use the scapegoat as the odd setters and go, what are the bookies thinking, But when we ourselves as the public double down and go pick them to 2-1 and or beyond, got to have a good reason for that. And I doubt people are on the same analysis trains as myself, although I'm sure they're picking Bryce Mitchell for the grappling. I'm sure they're not citing, even people like picking him to win that way aren't citing, and his chances will be better in the small cage. Of course, I will still do a better job making an argument for the side I'm betting against than people actually betting for them, which makes it hurt that much more when my analysis proves to be right and I am the one with the no ticket, right? And you're stuck watching all the victory laps. That's always fun. But yeah, for this, I don't get it. And for me, it's I think that maybe it's what is it, an injury thing maybe? Is there kind of injury rumor? And two things on that. One, like I always say, and the reason why I do forgive myself for not trying to get inside information on how people are looking or whatnot, and I've given you guys examples before, you can't have that inside information where for whatever reason you're what do you call a simple plan, right? You're like Billy Bob Thornton. You stumbled onto the cache in the woods. You look around. Holy fuck! Am I the only person seeing this? I got Charlie's golden ticket. I got to sit on this shit tight. I got to keep it quiet. Or it's hearsay, right? And you're like, I heard it from somebody. Either way, both those things in your head, whether you want to admit it or not, they end up at the same value. And that value is dangerous if you're a gambler, because it'll cause you to run to the window, not just run to the window confidently in a volatile sport like MMA, and empty out because you think this fighter X is injured. And how many times have we seen it? Again, back to the main event, right? I may or may not have been talking with gambling people in the know, saying that the sharp accounts that they respect, were buying back their Valentina bets at a crazy rate, higher than you would see when somebody misses weight. Pretty much essentially that there's an injury, there was a leak, there was a solid piece of information if it got to these accounts, and they're leaving it in mass, not even just buying out of their bets, not even trying to get in on the other side, just trying to buy out, right? And either way, it looks like everybody was saved, right? Either way, regardless of the tactics that you took. But we go back to that, and Valentina, regardless of how you scored it, A, had an argument for winning that fight, and B, it was one of her most active fights ever, both on the feet and grappling-wise, right? She didn't look that injured to me, as far as that goes. So it goes to show how dangerous that information is, right? And B, if there's some kind of information on Ige, who are you betting here? We're talking about the flat earth dude who drilled his testicles off, and all that low-hanging fruit that Bryce Mitchell gets picked on aside from it. Well, let's look at the more relevant stuff. Dude is going through crazy ex-girlfriend issues, which, hey, man, we've all been there, right? There are property I'm sure we all have that we will never get back from some crazy ex-girlfriends. I know I've been there. It's not fun. Don't mess with this man's fruit trees. And I know he's married and he's got himself a piece and he's doing well for himself. He's got plenty of things to be grateful about. Seems like he's got the attitude adjustment, but let's not pretend the man, has his own self-admitted, anger issues. I got my own issues too, man. I'm not judging. What I am doing is I'm saying that, how stable of a product is he? Secondly, not only are there 2 withdrawals, the one that's responsible officially for his side of it was back issues, and that was the most recent one. And as we know, with fighters with back issues, those things can flare up at any time and really affect you, the day of or this and that. So even if you're feeling good, you could wake up and have a bad day. Like a fighter with reoccurring back issues is already a flag. So again, I'm trying to think of the logic as for why people continue to pour on Bryce Mitchell, even if there is a rumor, which I haven't heard one, folks, for what it's worth. But even if there, I'm just trying to reach for straws and justify it here. Basically, the basic breakdown is, I think, the more likely person to get a finish. Again, just because Dan Ige hasn't been finished doesn't mean he can't be. Just because Dan Ige hasn't been submitted doesn't mean he can't be, right? If Mitchell goes out there and submits him, crazier things have happened. None of us should be surprised. Even me, who is picking and playing Dan Ige here. That being said, I do believe that Ige is the more likely fighter to finish. We've seen Bryce Mitchell, if he can get hurt. I know he was sick his last time out, right? And that was the only time he's lost in his pro career, at least. He has been submitted before as an amateur. So he's lost in other fields there. But yes, first time he lost as a pro. I'll take his word for it, sure that he was sick. But at the same time, it's Ilia Topuria, so it's like hard to tell. I think Topuria could still win that fight regardless, healthy Bryce Mitchell or not. But I also will take Bryce Mitchell's word for it that he wasn't 100%. So it's a hard thing to go by there. And another good analog matchup is if you go watch on the other side, Evloev Ige, and kind of like Eminent Ige. Except unlike Eminent Ige, where it's actually a legit argument, Ige actually beat Emmett in that fight. But like many of Ige's fights, whether he clearly lost, there's an argument he won or otherwise. Like many of Ige's losses, I should say, is that when you go back to watch him, he does much better than you remember. I don't know if that's just me, folks, but I always get that with Ige. He does much better than I remember. I'm going to tweet that we're breaking down the main card now. Talking hashtag UFC. Sorry, I'm my own producer, folks, so you gotta deal with a random interruption. But yeah. And then, I think he's more likely to, Ige's probably more likely to get the finish. Not so much his counter left hands and counters, which are going to be live against Mitchell, who does have porous defense. Again, you look at his striking; it's not great. The offense is great. The defense certainly ain't great. But it's when he has that initiative, he can maintain that initiative. That's when things really start flowing for Bryce Mitchell. I don't think Ige is going to allow him the cage positioning for the initiative. Ige will still be susceptible to takedowns, strikes, through the fact that Bryce Mitchell just does have some really good timing. And Ige is not beyond being caught shuffling his feet forward or out. He's been caught in those positions before, even though he's been fighting much more discipline to the Nixick system. Shout out to my guy Eric Nixick. A shout out to the video, which shouts his system, and where you can find more tidbits to that. Of course, my guy MMA there on a YouTube channel at MMA Analytics or something on Twitter. I'm not sure. But shout out to my guy Jason there. Excellent. I know I shouted him out last podcast, but excellent video there. And Ige's really been kind of like following to that system. And that's just a great system for anti-wrestling too, especially with Eric's, again, his style and stuff that, I know I've been preaching about, from my point of view, since prior Ngannou Miocic 2, right? As far as the ones to the body, the ones and twos to the body, center lines, all those things. And I think the body is center line. And more importantly, right hands. I know Ige is known for his left, but I think his right is going to be, and they try to change it up. They try to go more center line than left against Landwehr, right? Because they knew they'd be looking for the left hook. So they got to see the fact that right hands are the common culprit for Mitchell. Mitchell's eye always gets messed up from there, always gets cut open and bleeds. Doesn't wear damage as well, so that's also something to consider, that not only Mitchell doesn't wear damage as well, but the more damaging fighter, stylistically and arguably when they match up, will be Ige. So if Ige is not able to get the finish, I'm not sure if I'm picking him by early finish or by decision. It's going to be a dogged decision where Bryce Mitchell will definitely be winning one of the rounds. It's going to be a tight fight. He'll definitely be winning the run of the rounds through activity via his control. But he is not exactly the most criteria-friendly grappler either. It's not that he doesn't strike when he grapples, but if he doesn't get the submission, he's not really scoring a lot outside of positional time. He either gets you in his washing machine with the single hook where you can start kind of doing the back take, truck, twister kind of washing machine, or he's just looking to do positional play. And Ige is a better scrambler than Barbosa and the guys he was able to get that off on, who, even though they're impressive wins in highlight, that's traditionally how you beat them, FEE-LA was kind of a weird fight. Those were some of the first fights coming out of the pandemic, era. It was also, even though I don't disagree with the score that Bryce Mitchell beat FEE-LA, it was also a deceptively closer fight than you realize, especially when you're looking at the criteria. As far as who was doing more damaging strikes and whatnot, FEE-LA was striking submissions and hitting sweeps, and successful sweeps multiple times from the bottom. If he was able to do that, I could see Ige being able to re-wrestle. I know Ige has been able to be taken down before, and we've seen him, taken down in dogfights before. That's why, even though he still has a positive percentage of 56%, higher than the offensive puzzle piece of Mitchell's offensive 44% completion rate. The reason, 56% still isn't great, obviously, and a lot of that is due to a lot of the dogfights that he was in, and or Movsar Evloev, right? Which, again, he did better in that fight than you really think. A lot of those are mat returns, which, they still count with the way we're scored. I know guys like DC, are really married to more of a wrestling style and has different opinions on that. I'm just saying you got to keep in mind a lot of those are mat returns. Not that makes him any less impressive or effective, clearly. But that's what a lot of those are. And then you've got like the wild fights earlier on in his career when, maybe he was kind of getting away from that. Jordan Williams of the world. Bryce Mitchell, by the way, lists himself as a southpaw, even though he fights switch. And Ige, I believe, 2-1 against UFC level southpaws. I want to say Mike Santiago and maybe Jordan Williams was a southpaw. And then, of course, his early loss to Julio Arce was a southpaw, but obviously complete opposite style. Literally complete opposite style of Mitchell, even though both are good back takers. For what that's worth. But, Ige, when you look at his wrestling, though, in those losses, he got kind of surprised by Chan Sung Jung's wrestling, who hit an uptick by working with Fight Ready for that camp, right? And you see Jung peeling his wrist and using that left wrist at Ige. But Ige, it's about that time he does these multiple Russian camps with Khabib and company, right? And also just focusing on his game and just getting better all around. He's even though he's losing, he's actually making improvements when you look at his game. And again, even though he lost to Evloev, there was a lot of impressive. His decision making in general has been much better. In general, all around. Not just in that fight, in a lot of his recent fights, right? Better decision making is coming along with that Nick 6 striking system, with the better cage positioning. These things all feed into each other. But even specifically, he's been peeling wrists like Zombie did to him. He's actually using that exact move, even against Evloev, to get back to his feet, spinning guys against the cage, and that's exactly what you got to do. Again, Ige is an overachiever, but doesn't get credit for it, whereas I think Bryce Mitchell is an overachiever and he gets too much credit for it, if that makes sense. So I'm not saying either of these guys are a world beater, but I do believe, I'm not saying there's a big world difference between them either, But I do believe Ige, even though it's only the next notch up, I do believe he is clearly the next notch up in all fields, including wrestling, and he's going to have to show that. I do think, Ige is still, whether it's, it used to always be round 2, sometimes it'll be round 3, even in a 3-rounder, despite him showing clearly the cardio to go with some of the best fighters in the world in his weight class for 5 rounds. He is not beyond dropping around, which is why I said if he doesn't finish Bryce Mitchell, we're going to be sweating going into a round 3 where we're probably 1-1, or Ige is 2-0, but round 2 is close enough where did we get robbed from it? Oh shit. Bryce Mitchell is having random success in round 3, right? Like we could see that, especially if Bryce Mitchell is healthy and not sick and focused. Again, a lot of things have to be in the Bryce Mitchell check boxes too, right? Which is kind of the crazy thing about this number. But more pathways to win, more proven, better wrestler, fellow Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, never been stopped. The small cage will help Bryce Mitchell from a stylistic perspective. But again, the porous defense, the Ige cage positioning, I think this is like the Damon Jackson fight. Even if I officially pick Ige by decision, I may still put Ige by KO in my round robin. But the official play that I have down is I just kick for coverage. You're going to give me plus 175 on Dan Ige in a fight where you could make an argument that he could be 175. Minus 175, I mean. Favored. Fucking 1 unit, easy. Bias aside. Put it on me. I don't give a fuck. Give me Dan Ige, baby. That's where the value is at. All right, next fight. We'll break this one down fast. Marina Rodriguez, minus 310 versus Momche. Yeah. Michelle Waterson Gomez, plus 250. I don't know why they're making this matchup again. I don't know if this is like their version of Rose and Andrade 2, where they're thinking this is the only chance in hell where Waterson can win if you give her a full camp. Make it down at 115 where Rodriguez has to cut down to the weight. Make it only 3 rounds, even though Waterson likes 5 rounds. Let's be honest, she's probably going to be taking damage here, so you just have to pray that she gets some opportunistic back take, some Kia axe kick that bullshits the judges into like stealing 2 rounds her way. She's been looking to upgrade the Jackson Wink meta. She apparently humbled herself and went to talk to some judges, which I respect. But I'm like, it's funny. I'm like, Jackson Wink. It makes sense. They are they got to upgrade the playbook. Yes, very good. Late round takedown. The cheerleading to the late round, last 10 seconds left is a little outdated there. So maybe they're gonna try to update the book. But again, I don't know about changing weight classes. I don't know about old dogs and new tricks, so to speak. I like Rodriguez here. I took round 3, and that was a close round. I feel like that had it all over it. We're getting it this time. You're going to give me another chance at it round 3, baby. That's going to be in the round robin. I ended up, I'm probably going to put like a whole half units on it a piece, but I ended up going Scottie Pippen's 0.33 units in round 2 and round 3 because we've seen Waterson get finished recently in round 3. Rodriguez's last finish, I believe, was round 2. So round 2 could be a live round as well. And again, what if she hurts her and Rodriguez gets cheeky and, locks up a guillotine or whatever front choke? I think it's probably going to be more of a TKO by attrition. If she gets the stoppage, it's favored to go the distance. But, give me Rodriguez. What did the number I get for it? Again, I could probably get better numbers at a different house, but I'm going to give you guys what I got. And the lower number will be what goes on the official record as per usual. I do myself no favors there. Round 2 plus 900. Round 3 plus 1100. Yeah. Those are some nice sprinkles. So I put just over a half a unit. And it could even return, what's the lowest one? The lowest one returns over 2.5 units. That's after you deduct the other round flyer. And the higher one gets us 3.30 units. And that's after you deduct the 0.33 from a hypothetical miss in round 2. So let's go some Scottie Pippens in there, baby. Let's go. All right, next fight, and I'll get to you guys in the chat. I want to get through this. I don't have anything on this one yet for Brian Battle minus 185, AJ Fletcher plus 154. I know my guy Aaron Bronstetter and some other gamblers I respect felt bullish on AJ Fletcher plus money. If you are going to play it, it feels like a dogger pass kind of fight. It doesn't feel like a fight that I'm going to want to have to do with no matter who I pick, especially because I'm already have more dogs than I know what to do with right now. So I'm going to forgo even a pick or a lean. Check me at Dan Tom MMA for my quick picks and prognostications, which of course go up on every fight day at MMAJunkie.com. Of course, I track all my picks, or all my plays are tracked on Action Network. Find me at Daniel Tom there. Ghost fan of Valdur informed everyone that Dana said Waterson versus Rodriguez was the now you know VS. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. Wasn't technically Marina? Wasn't she actually on like the first like Brazil Contender Series? So I guess that's it. Like he just does it for if there was a Contender Series fighter, he'll just do it for that fighter, even if it's like a fighter who is like clearly more well known as not a Contender Series fighter. One of those few fighters who deserve the distinction, maybe not as the Contender Series fighters, right? Like the Dan Igues of the world, or the Marina Rodriguez's, Sean O'Malley's, Jamal Hills, who got the freaking titles, right? But of course, that's what he's going to advertise him, and that's what he's going to do. And I love it when he doesn't do it on one of the rare fighters, especially rare these days that he doesn't sign. You're like, dude, did you forget you chose not to sign that fighter? Now you're bragging about them. When it was the matchmaker that grabbed them on here last minute just to plug a hole in the ship. But yeah, we got Charles Jourdain opening up the main card, -148. Ricardo-Ramos, +124. This is another fight that opened even, and I don't agree with the way the money's going. I feel like Ricardo-Ramos is a live dog. I haven't looked up in this fight to confirm my pick, but I'm definitely leaning that way. I don't know with all the dog plays that I already have if I'm going to add another one. So if I don't, I will probably, and I do end up picking Ramos, you'll probably see his money line, even though it's not sexy. Hoping you might see his money line in the round robin. It's tough because when I get limited, they don't let me put the big numbers. But the rule of thumb is, as it should be for a round robin, for like a four-legger, is I want to make it so I calculate the lowest combination of winnings. So you need a minimum of 2 of your 4 for a round robin to hit. So I take the 2 lowest priced and what they would pay out. And as long as the 2 lowest winnings pays out for the round robin in total, then it's worth it. If not, it's not worth it, right? Because now you're having to hit 3 legs to pay the thing off. What the fuck are you doing? Which is why it's great when you're not limited and you're actually able to go with big numbers. I know big numbers are also lower percentage hits, but you can go the formula that I like where you get like plus 700s and above, like 3 of those lines, and then you get like 1 anchor line. Like you get some like stupid -190 to -200 fight doesn't go the distance. That's going to clearly not go the distance kind of thing. So you at least know at least one of your anchors is hitting. So you need just one to hit for a big payout that'll definitely pay off your round robin line and add to your profits for the night, right? I can't do that. I have to pick in smaller margins where it has to be all plus numbers, but all plus numbers that aren't too high yet still pay off with just 2 legs, if that makes sense. So it puts me in this funny place where I hate these little plus 120 numbers. But if there is a dog that I don't have enough balls to play straight up, like Alex Reyes, who granted you're getting plus 350 for him. Obviously he didn't cash, so it doesn't matter. But you know what I'm saying? A little more easier to throw a flyer out there for that. We'll see where I end up with the Ricardo-Ramos. Charles Jourdain's not quite Volkov territory, but I just don't trust him, man. My guy Fanyo is talking about his Andrew Tate and like doing his own Matt Schnell thing about like trumping for fighter pay, saying that it's fine or some bullshit. I forgot about that. But the reason why I get frustrated with Charles Jourdain is because he came on the scene like a round 3 guy. You know I love my round 3 guys. But then he pursued, so not so much that he lost to my guy Juicy J in round 3, but then starts to just waste his time and like not finish guys like Kron Gracie or Andre fucking Uhl. Like, you are the round 3 guy against the guy who fades in round 3 in one of his last fights, means one of his last times you can fade him at bantamweight, which was part of the reason why he was fading so hard in round 3. And what do you choose to do? Stupid, overplayed 300. This is Sparta kick that is definitely not overplayed, and the motherfucker is still bragging about that when he could have finished the fight. In the same breath that he's complaining about the judges and going, well, I need to be in control and, go for the finish. And then he goes and turns around about bragging about doing the stupid overplayed Spart 300 kick in the fight where he should have finished the guy fucking round 3, even though it didn't bother him. Finish. Sorry. Not a round 3 guy in my book, Jourdain. Not a round 3 guy in my book. Even if I pick him, sure as shit ain't playing him in round 3. So that means watch, Jourdain's going to win in round 3 now. You guys watch. All right, moving down. Dan Argueta, -185. Miles Johns, +154. This line surprises me. I was expecting Dan Argueta to be an underdog or this to be like close to a pick'em line. And Dan Argueta maybe to be like a slight favorite, I should say, close to pick 'em. And yeah, so I don't blame money coming in on Johns when Argueta even opened higher, I believe, at -2 to 1. This is not a card for parlaying. They almost want to ask you that with the way they priced Argueta originally. And even though I like Argueta, and I like him here, and he's going to be the pick, I do not like the price. And I don't want to take that price to fade a Fortis guy at plus money. So, yeah, good luck if you're on Johns, but I'll probably be picking Argueta and staying away. This fight, I can't stay away. Andre Fee-La-Ho, baby. Fee-La-Ho, baby. He's coming in like Shooter McGavin, the Man in Black, kissing Happy Gilmore's grandma and doing the hand thing. That's what I picture Fee-La-Ho up in the club, right? And you guys know I've had the book on Fee-La-Ho. I was wrong about him because I was wrong about Baeza, as that aged really well for him. But sometimes you got to stick to your guns, just like, again, what I said with, Dan Ige continues to overperform, which is why I'm going to pick him, because he doesn't get the credit for it, whereas Bryce Mitchell overperforms, and I think he's getting too much credit for it. And sometimes you think, not that I wish ill or anything, or all these fighters are good. I'm not saying they are not, but I'm just saying that sometimes people are who they think we are originally. Maybe we're not wrong because of one particular result, or even two. So maybe that's the case here, and that's why I stuck with it and profited it, especially with that round 2 for Jake Matthews, of course, Jake Matthews, got it. And of course, he's been TKO'd every time since. I guess I told you he's been pretty chinny. Was 0-1 against UFC level lefties. I was going to retweet that Southpaw report with the, of course, it was the outside the UFC fight to Chris Curtis. I didn't go back to clip his fight with Joaquin Buckley to find the commonalities there. I may post that for you guys if I have time. It's actually like a short card for a Southpaw report if I want to bring that back, but you guys tune in here for that. And yeah, clearly not great against Southpaws. And not just that, but body work from both stances was a quiet thing too. It's something I picked out before, and I know I spoke about even prior to the Salikov spinning. I believe I picked it specifically from to win by a spinning kick by the body, right? Because Fee-La-Ho to the body, and we saw that. And Tim Means, even though he's not like some southpaw kicker, like some Rockhold or whatever, he will throw front kicks to the body, even with his decrepit ass, at least one decrepit ass ankle, right? But he will also punch to the body. He counter punches really well, smooth. He's going to be running the risk because Tim Means gets hurt every fight now for like the last 3 years. Because again, he's like RDA, where I'm probably gonna, this is a trap that I know I'm knowingly walking into this trap, folks. Because this is like RDA. I know he's past it. I know he's kind of even Means not as successful as RDA. Still a fighter, arguably, has overachieved and is just maybe still overachieving just for the simple fact that he's still here, right? Even though his results haven't been great, win or lose, he's still getting rocked in almost all of his fights recently. It is shaky. I get why he's an underdog, but at the same time, I know Fee-La-Ho is only 28. There's a lot of Ho feeling left in his life to do. But 5 by stoppage, training at a hard sparring gym. I just think he's just one of those guys that his level is clear and it's not here. And Means can still get this. I think this is the old dog's final run. You're gonna give me plus 150 on him. At least that's the number I got. I took a whole unit there. Shouts to someone from the prop squad, may or may not be on the KO. I like that. Part of me was thinking inside the distance, maybe even 2, but decision is probably the most likely. However, do not be shocked if I put Means by KO in my round robin. That's definitely something I may look to. Kind of like with Ige, we've got the money lines for Gamrot, Ige, Means so far. But the round robins could be like a Gamrot sub and then maybe Ige, Means by KO in that round robin. Do not be surprised to see either a combination or all 3 of those selections in my round robin, regardless of what I can, even if I'm not limited, and I can play sexier stuff. That'll probably be in there. So will probably Rodriguez round 3, by the way. So that in a perfect world, that's probably what my round robin is. I may, sub Ramos out if I both like Ramos, but also don't end up liking him enough or having the bankroll as far as what I allow myself to play. You guys know me. Try to limit myself to 6-7 unit max per card. I know that's like some people's single bets and they still have winning years. Good for them. Not me, even though I'm sucking ass, it doesn't mean I'm not going to be completely irresponsible and not being consistent to some sort of a system. and due diligence, no, I'm gonna stick with those. I'm gonna stick with what got me to the race. And what's served me well in prior years, even though it's not tracked at Action Network, who I've only been working with roughly since I've been tracking. So forgive me there, folks. And again, of course, the first year I do that third-party tracking, even though I've been tracking officially through different scales, through Junkie, through my own multiple mediums here, mxmartialanalyst.com. It's all about the third-party tracking. And, of course, first year I do that, I'm fucking eating shit from all angles, right? It's okay, folks. We still got enough playtime on the board left. I think we can come back, and I got a really good feeling about this weekend, folks. All right, let's push it down. Jacob Malkoun, yeah, minus 535. Cody Brundage plus 400. I think I took a flyer on Brundage for like a round one, like 2 fights ago, and I learned my lesson on that. And then I think his last fight just showed why. I'm definitely not gonna be picking Cody Brundage for anything again. Malkoun, an underrated guy, and you wouldn't know he's underrated by this price tag. Definitely a parlay piece if I were to care to parlay anything on this card, but I don't. I will pick Malkoun maybe by decision. What's this fight? Is it favored to go long? What we got here? Fight goes to decision plus. Oh, maybe not favored to go to decision, huh? The Malkoun decision, though. I know Brundage is a do or die fighter, and that's why it's priced like that. But what is Malkoun by points? And Malkoun inside plus 110, so they're expecting him by decision plus 120. They don't give a shit. They're just pricing you out. Yeah, I don't care to play that fight anyway. So, thank you for that confirmation. Muhammad Usman minus 135. Jake Collier plus 114. Money coming in on Collier, which doesn't surprise me. But I don't know. It's like Collier should have, between being the former middleweight, the more experienced guy, the more output guy, perhaps the more diverse guy, you expect him to be better as the fight goes. But you could argue that Muhammad Usman could arguably have the edge as this fight goes, which is crazy to say, as awkward, as weird, as frantic as he can seemingly move and fight at. So I have no clue. Maybe I'll pick Mo Usman by knockout. But I ain't touching this fight. Definitely have no clue about these last two. So, Tamaris Vidal, minus 225. Montserrat Rendon, Ruiz, I'm guessing, plus 185. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I will pick the favorite. Mizuki Inoue, minus 310. Hannah, go. Everything's gold, plus 250. I know, again, WMMA should pick the underdogs and Toutmaster, but I probably won't officially or in Toutmaster. You know me, I'm a Mizuki fan. Give me Mizuki. I would definitely parlay her if this was a parlay card, but I ain't looking to do that. Again, exposure, and there's too much plus Mune that I like. So yeah, let's go there. Sorry, I'm gonna fill this 33. And what the fuck was that? 900, 1100. Yeah, we'll see where I end up there. All right. How do we do on time, folks? 141. We still went fucking long. Jesus, I had long breakdowns on some of those fights. Sorry, I got passionate. All right. Gonna clean up the chat. 141. 141 chat. All right. Ghost Phantom, do you think that Gamrot had a hard time controlling people on the ground because he doesn't grab wrists or use leg shelves? That definitely doesn't help, but it's weird. It's one of those things where it's like he obviously fights like one of those cartoon dust bubbles, but at the same time, you know, he's either putting guys away. Like, again, no one should be surprised. Like, Jeremy Stevens had better counter grappling and counter wrestling than many people gave him credit for, and as soon as Gamrot got past those layers that very few people did, because, Stevens, like I just said, underrated, not given enough credit. Not saying he was lights out there, but I'm saying he wasn't given enough credit in those areas, supplemented with the optics of the matchmaking, right? Similar to Fiziev, an action fighting striker guy. They tend to kind of give those guys those. They really, you know, we talked about that. I think with Fanyo, I've talked about with Ryan Wagner for particularly. The striking bias is matchmaking. A lot of guys can fall into those favorable matchups where they don't really get tested by that dedicated grappler. And that could be the case with Fiziev, because you do see in Gamrot's defense, part of that reason is because either guys are really good like Sarukian, who no one should have been surprised by that. Again, I've been telling you guys about Sarukian since before he fought Makhachev.
or he's blowing guys instantly out of the water when he gets him there. Doesn't need to get him there because he knocks him out like Holtzman or submits them like Stevens, right? So it's one of those weird things. He said he's promised improvements. He's a guy that's, you got to remember that he takes fights really fast. Was not doing himself any favors with the short notice fights. Part of the reason why I picked Mr. Turner to beat him in the last time out. He's actually a decent amount of time off. We'll see. He is later into his career, still in his prime, arguably, but later in his career, later prime. Perhaps Gamrot is. So now is the time. The door is still open, but now is the time. We'll see if he makes any of those adjustments. But I wouldn't necessarily condemn him for it. Not that you are, Ghost, but I was hearing some analysis and seeing some analysis that maybe even, and I'm a guy who's not even a fan or a defender of Gamrot's style, by the way, but even me was going like, say what you will, the guy, we don't call him a chain. You can't say he's a good positional. You can't say he's a good chain wrestler and be like, why is he not as good as positional grappling? And I go, you can say that because you can use chain wrestling to get a ground and secure position and go step by step, obviously. But what I'm talking about is the guy is naturally a good scrambler and chain wrestler because he's an active grappler. That's just kind of how he is. And though you could definitely argue, why not control? Why not waste energy if you don't need to? He is one of the few fighters that has an endless gas tank, and B, back up to matchup dependency. Well, how I pick my matchups and why I'm backing even a guy like Gamrot, who I don't like in this spot, with not just my pick, but my money, is because I actually think, even if he did make those improvements, I would be like, I don't care. Keep making him work. Keep scrambling with it. As long as you're on him and you're not allowing him up to his feet without a mat return or allowing him to get any separation for him, I don't care if you hold position. Make him work. You're going to tire him. That's what you want to do against a guy like Fiziev. So, balance. You need a balance of both. But again, I don't think one's necessarily too bad for the other. Synchro wing, does Gamrot dip his head to the left or maybe switch kick KO? The funny thing is I think he dips his head to the right. I note that if you go back to my breakdown I wrote on Tsarukyan, and Tsarukyan, like Fiziev, like many Eastern European to Russian kickboxers, they have a very fluent, like Rashid Magomedov, very fluent off the lead side. So not just the body work, which I did call, not just harping and crying about it because I'm a body work guy or I'm on the wrong end of the decision guy, which I am actually both those guys, sadly. No, but I actually called for that body work that everybody talks about. I called it in my breakdown prior to the fight. Again, picking the play was wrong, but the analysis, for whatever that's worth, it was right. But I also said not just the body work, but the switch kick, which could lead to a head kick KO, which what you're talking about, synchroing, to make you feel less crazy there for your analysis, by the way, shouts. So that is obviously a positive for Fiziev here. But again, just like Tsarukyan, Fiziev has been on the wrong end of some bad decisions because, again, even though they're not as much of a pronounced counterfighter as Fiziev, much less Tsarukyan, right? But what do? They work the body. And what do judges traditionally, to pundits, to pros, to casuals, to broadcasters alike, give the least credit for? Countering and body work. So again, maybe I get burned for going against myself. Or, again, you can accuse me of, complaining or sticking to the same thing. No, I'm being positive, folks. I'm being positive. I'm trying to John Kavanagh here and win or learn. I'm going against my stylistic things as much as I am leaning into them. I'm going against certain biases as much as I am picking with them. I'm doing both and showing my reasons for both. Does it mean I'm going to be right? No. But we're going to do our best. Rios in Truesdale. Jack Slag actually mentioned this on the Patreon. Gamrot chains his doubles when he's being sprawled on and has a sucker drag. Yep. Have you seen that? And do you really? Yep, I've seen it. And again, like I cited, RDA does a poor man's version of this in their fight and is able to get Fiziev with it. And that's not even RDA's thing. And that when I saw that, I'll be honest, I usually wait until I watch the tape. But I kept that fight playing and I went over and I placed my Gamrot bets at that point. That's how much I liked that look. Was that number one quote from the cable guy? No, it was from the original Batman. It was Jack Nicholson. Bob, you're my number one guy. Sorry, I like that one. Shout out to my guy Danny Mahoney. I know he likes that. Synchro Wing, would you ever have a drink with Dan Ige? Sure, of course I would. Why not? Dan seems like a good guy. How good is Ige's jab? I don't know if you saw, but I posted something that showed that Mitchell is susceptible to jabs because he gets stuck on the front foot.
I'm going to go check that out, and I'm going to share that, Ghost Phantom. I'm not going to pretend to pontificate on your analysis, which is fantastic. I would rather share it out and shout you here. And thank you for sharing that on this show. Synchro Wing, I bought Nixit Cage Control for MMA. Good. That's a solid buy. Cage Control for MMA Instructional. It's very good. And Dan Ige is there, too. Absolutely, man. 2 peas in a pod, those two. I saw someone say this online. Watterson is a better kicker than Zhang. Agreed now. She's a more fancier kicker. Or is that just a racist troll? I don't know, considering they're both Asian. But yeah, I don't agree with that opinion. Val Dewar informed everyone that Dana said Watterson versus Rodriguez was the now you know. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sorry if I'm reading some of these twice, folks. Fee-La-Ho, baby. You guys know Fee-La-Ho, Captain Fee-La-Ho, baby. He's not Captain Save-A-Ho. It's Captain Fee-La-Ho. Hopefully, the captain goes down with a ship. For our bet's sake, no offense. Not wishing him ill will. What's up with Fee-La-Ho style, though? He just stands there after moving forward like in the Jake Matthews Australian accent. Yep, that's right. He does, kind of, doesn't he? Someone said this in the forum. Do we consider Inoue a bad fighter since she lost to Ramos, who only landed 21 strikes in the title fight? No, maybe more of a stylistic thing there. All right, that goes for the chat cleanup. 149. Let's go... picks cleanup recap. All right, we're going to recap picks and plays. No doing the Amazon reads this time, but thank you guys. MixedMartialAnalyst.com. Of course, click through banners for on it or Amazon. You just click through the banner through no extra purchase of your own. Just do your purchasing like you would normally do, and a small percentage of your purchase for no extra cost will get kicked back to this here program. And it helps. Or if you just want to support this here free program for over half a decade now. Not that I deserve it, but if you want to, there is a secure PayPal link at MixedMartialAnalyst.com. Again, my website, the website that hosts this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast. You can also find me at Dan Tom MMA, where you can find on X, on Instagram, and in my link tree, amongst many useful links for my YouTube, where you can subscribe. Like this show, please. Thank you. I need the likes. Hit the like button. Smash it. I don't deserve it, but I appreciate it. Thank you. You can hit the subscribe button to join in on the shows and chats. And, of course, there is a secure PayPal, the same secure PayPal donation link in the at Dan Tom MMA address bio link tree there. If you want to donate to this here program, of course, use code PROTECT15. If you want to get yourself some of my guy D Love's Turmeric Tonic, that's at theturmerictonic.com. Don't forget the little silent R in turmeric, TURMERIC. theturmerictonic.com. Shout out to my guy D Love. Shout out to all you guys, and let's recap the picks and plays. For Bellator, the only pick and the only play I'm giving out is taking Eblen by round 5 submission. Played him round 4 plus 1,300 and round 5 plus 1,600, 0.17 U apiece. That's just over. That's what? That's 0.34 units. If that misses, I won't even notice it. Especially with my mountain of a losing record, I won't notice it. Am I right? UFC Vegas 79. Why are they listing it on ESPN? Taking Gamrot over Fiziev. Really? Taking Ige over Mitchell. Look at my shit. Look at these shorts. I got shorts every fucking color. I got designer t-shirts. Sorry, Bryce Mitchell reminds me of James Franco from Spring Breakers. Taking Rodriguez over Momche. Yeah. Watterson Gomez. I don't know who I'm taking in Battle versus Fletcher. We'll see. Versus Battle versus the reincarnation of Sean Shirk. Probably leaning toward Ramos, but see, again, for these fights, the Fletcher and Battle and Ramos Jourdain, check me at Dan Tom MMA, my quick picks and prognostications. Share that out. Give that some love, baby, on fight day. Always post at MMAJunkie.com, and I post it, of course, again, at Dan Tom MMA, where I post all these picks and plays going down to the prelims, taking Argueta-Johns, taking the Dirty Bird, Tim Means, over Fee-La-Ho, baby, Captain Fee-La-Ho, taking Malkoun, baby, over Brundage, probably take Usman over Collier, probably take Vidal over Montserrat Ruiz, and we'll be taking Inoue over Goldy, although I'll be staying away from those last 3 or 4 fights. Most for certainly, picks-wise, I'm on Ige as a dog, plus 175, 1 unit. Gamrot as a dog, plus 135, 1 unit. Means as a dog, plus 150, 1 unit. May also add a 4th dog in Ramos if I like it. If I don't, you might be surprised to not be surprised to see Ramos in the round robin. And if Ramos doesn't make it in either, that round robin is probably looking like a Rodriguez round 3, hopefully. Ige KO
Gamrot submission, and Tim Means KO. Will probably be those bonuses there. Of course, I've got some round spinkles on standalone. Rodriguez round 2 plus 900. And plus round 3 plus 1100. Both point Scottie Pippen's 0.33U sprinkles. Just under a half unit each. And of course, the 0.17U's in the main events, baby. Did it in Bellator. We did it in UFC. Gamrot round 3 plus 2000. Gamrot round 4 plus 2200. Gamrot round 5 plus 3300. 0.17 unit sprinkles on each. Roughly a 1.5 unit exposure to Gamrot. Not too bad. Hopefully we don't need him to win. Hopefully the other things come through. That would be nice for a change, right? But I think we're due for that change, and we're not just due. I got a good feeling. Got a good feeling in you. Maybe you got a good feeling in me. We will just get through this weekend successfully. Let's fucking do it, baby. Thank you guys. Dirty Bird, FEE-LA-HO, nice. Fire show emojis are being removed for some reason. Okay, I don't know why, but you can replace that with likes and positive comments, even if you're already in the chat. Awesome show as always, baby. It is an awesome show, and I'm here, baby. I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't know. My ass isn't that great. The show was great, though. Thanks, Dan. Thank you, Rios and Trues. Thanks to everybody. Ghost Phantom, James Kendrick. Everybody in the house, you guys know I got love for you guys, the admins or the nons, Jimmy Kudo, my guy over there, the newcomers in the house. Appreciate you guys. Good luck on your picks and plays, and always protect your neck.